number 5, shrunken heads. One of the most disturbing and fascinating collections that the Warrens have at their museum are their shrunken heads. Often used for voodoo rituals, they claim that many of these heads have been defiled by evil. Shrunken heads, for those of you who don't know, are severed human heads that have been prepared in a particular way to be used for rituals, trophies, or for trade purposes, often associated with the act of headhunting in regions of the world like the Amazon rainforest with various indigenous tribes. They're also used as a means of scaring off enemies. Which, yeah, totally understand how that works. Would not go anywhere near that. Up next, number 4, the organ. Amongst the collection of satanic objects, demon masks, death curses, and haunted dolls and toys, the Warrens have a much larger haunted item that tends to attract people to their museum, an old organ that reportedly plays all by itself. It's one of the items said to have a spiritual or metaphysical purpose rather than just being strictly haunted or possessed. The organ as an instrument has a long history of association with the horror genre. Often the organ, which is an instrument over 1800 years old, is used in creating bone-chilling music, not just because of how it sounds, but because of its roots in Victorian novels, in which organists would practice playing it at night. Several key publications help perpetuate the idea that the organ was associated with the Gothic or the haunted, including the likes of Phantom of the Opera, which was originally published in 1900. Organ music, including a couple of Bach's symphonies, have been a staple in early horror cinema, including the 1941 Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So all in all, whether the Warrens' organ actually plays itself entirely on its own, or if it's just a well thought out gimmick, their organ definitely helps set the mood amongst all of the other allegedly haunted artifacts that the museum harbors. In at 3, masks. The Warrens have a variety of strange and obscure masks in their collection from all over the globe, including parts of Africa. They've researched over 3,500 cases, so naturally they've come into contact with many a mask with nefarious origins. One mask was used as a topa for diabolical protection. There are voodoo masks accompanied by ritualistic objects. Others have been possessed, and when someone puts on the mask, they risk becoming possessed themselves. Other masks have previously been possessed and no longer are, but are kept at the museum for safekeeping. Typically, the Warrens keep objects that are still possessed or have risk of harming humans locked within glass cases, so fear not, friends. Although, safety first, maybe don't try to put on one of their masks. I also imagine it would not smell good. And at number 2, psychic photographs. Psychic photographs, according to Ed Warren, are a fascinating phenomenon in which a camera manages to capture the electromagnetic energy of a spirit, capturing either just the energy source or the apparition which depicts the ghost's spirits. In other words, they're photographs that have ghosts in them. According to Ed, I quote, "The camera is an impartial witness. It takes a picture of what it sees. It's not something that's made up. There are many ways that pictures of ghosts can be taken." He goes on to say that a ghost can actually project its image onto the camera's film by thinking of what it looks like by projecting it telepathically. They bypass your physical eye and go into your mind's eye, or your third eye. Now, some of these photographs are defiled by evil according to the Warrens. They also have other photographs featured at the museum too, depicting heinous acts of Satanism. And for the most part, none of these photographs came in a time when Photoshop actually existed, so who knows? And finally, at number 1, children's tombstones. Outside of the Warren Museum, you can snap a photo of yourself with a collection of tiny tombstones. Now, these tombstones, all of which previously belonged to deceased children, are said to have been used as satanic altars in various rituals. Now, throughout history, tombstones have been used as part of rituals in a practice that is often referred to as satanic ritual abuse, and was considered a subject of moral panic in the US during the 1980s that spread throughout parts of the world in the 90s. It was often associated with individuals who had dissociative identity disorder. It was also the focus of conspiracy theories in which SRA organizations, whose members were allegedly wealthy and powerful individuals, would abduct children and use them for sacrifices, as well as pornography and prostitution. It's not the only item that has ties to young children at the museum either. The Warrens also have a spike that was used to kill a baby by its own mother as a sacrifice to the devil in an act of Satanism. Ugh, creepy stuff.
Coming at number 5, we've got the satanic idol. Now, Satan is usually quite a controversial figure. In the past, any mention of the name would have been associated with something terrible, especially as satanic panic swept the nation. Why won't anyone think of the children, right? We love to assign weird moral values to stuff to ensure our political weight can be thrown around, but I'm getting off topic. These days, the jury is out on Satan. Many folks love the guy and worship him as ardently as anyone else would worship their deities. Some say he's a more forgiving figure than plenty of other gods and demigods. However, this idol doesn't seem to be associated with that end of the satanic spectrum. This one comes from the bowels of hell and brings with it misfortune and terror, or so they say. Let's take a look at this interesting oddity. With a misshapen horned head, piercing blue eyes, and a strange, unnaturally slim body, this doesn't necessarily look like the powerful demon most folks would assume is Satan. Artists can take liberties with the things they create, so don't write it off simply based on its looks. Apparently, a young hunter hunter had been scavenging through the woods in Connecticut when he stumbled upon this cursed idol. He didn't really know what to do with it, but he took it along just as well. Soon after coming into possession of this horned artifact, he ran into an old man in dark robes, one telling tales of doom and horror. This, of course, spooked the hunter, who discussed this interaction with his friends. Eventually, after some sleepless nights and anxiety, he was put in contact with the Warrens, who came by to evaluate the idol. They deemed it haunted indeed and took it off the poor guy's hands. I'm sure he was very glad to be free of it. Ed and Lorraine strapped the devil thing in and brought it back to their museum, where it still remains. So if you ever get a hankering for some devil worship or really want to look into some Gollum-esque blue eyes, you know where to go. Just be careful. That cloaked man in the woods is said to have been a worshipper of Satan, using the idol in dark and terrible rituals. I'm sure it's safe in the museum, but who knows.
And at number 4, a vampire coffin. While vampires are often portrayed as sex symbols in movies and books, vampires in real life, if they do exist, are allegedly much more dangerous. I can imagine why. Inside the museum, the Warrens have a coffin that is said to have been used by a real-life modern-day vampire. On its front, there's a gothic design, and a photograph of Ed taken upon retrieving the coffin. So, what do you guys think? Is there a chance that vampires really exist? Or are they just a fantasy? There have been cases throughout history of humans drinking blood, claiming that the act is life-sustaining, but whether or not their anatomy is that of what a vampire is supposed to be is actually yet to be scientifically proven. Who knows? Maybe the Warrens have stumbled upon something interesting.
Coming in number 3, we've got the Shadow Doll. Now, we've all got a particular cursed doll in mind when it comes to the Warrens, and now she's the star of a major motion picture franchise, so it seems that she's always going to come in first. But there is another doll at the museum that should elicit at least the same amount of fear. That's right, I'm talking about the Shadow Doll. This thing is downright butt ugly. Like, Annabelle as an OG Raggedy Annie is kinda creepy, and they had to make sure they punched up the creepiness with some porcelain features and unnerving eyes for the movie. But if they made a movie featuring the Shadow Doll as is, I think they might actually have to make it less creepy. For real. I don't know if big movie theater chains would allow something like this on their screens. Feels like something out of a snuff film, maybe a low-budget exploitation flick. Nobody's looking at this and saying, oh yeah, I want to watch a whole movie based on this thing. Worse yet, the Shadow Doll seems to carry a much more terrible curse than most. Plenty of cursed dolls require you to be in the same room as them in order for the worst of the effects to hit you, but the Shadow Doll just needs you to view a picture of it to generate risk. Just looking at it means there's a chance it'll visit you in your dreams and kill you there, Freddy Krueger style. And based on looks, I don't think it would make it fun like Freddy does. It would just be brutal and upsetting. Goodness gracious. Coming in number 2, we've got the Pearls of Death. These are known for their outrageously dangerous powers. They might just look like a nice set of pearls waiting to be adorned by the fanciest of folk, but be warned, the glamour is not worth the price. And I'm not talking about how much you pay for them. No, it is not money that these pearls want, it is your life. Owners of this particular string of aquatic orbs have complained time and time again of the necklace constricting around their throat and choking them. According to the first woman to adorn herself with this luxurious item, she felt as if she was being strangled as soon as she put them on. She attempted to take them off, but was unsuccessful. Panicked, she rushed out to request help, and it took multiple people yanking on the string to finally set her free. Since then, people have been very reluctant to wear these pearls. Some believe that a Satanist or black magic worshipper cursed the necklace before it was given to the unfortunate woman, kinda like the opposite of a holy person blessing an object. How fun. I wonder if we got a priest in there, whether they could cancel out the curse. I suppose not too many people are willing to test whether or not the pearls are still strangling. And finally, at number 1, we've got Annabelle, the Warren Museum tenant who needs no introduction, the mistress of the glass case, the shadow clawer of college boyfriends, the mega million movie star herself, Annabelle. What a classic cursed doll. Honestly, I'm sure the museum could liquidate most of their other objects and still have a similar crowd come by if they just kept Annabelle. Legendary. She looks a little different in real life than in the movies, although I'm sure this is true of any movie star. We've already discussed her Raggedy Annie appearance, especially compared to the more porcelain figure in the flicks. However, this doll makes up for a lack of spooky looks with a plethora of terrifying tales. After being gifted to a nursing student, Annabelle started acting strange. She'd move around the house on her own and leave little notes to the girls living there. Eventually, she would attack and strangle the boyfriend of one of the students, leaving them desperate for help. The Warrens soon arrived and whisked the doll away. However, they seemed to know just how wretched and terrible she could be, and as such, they locked Annabelle away in a holy box. This seems to keep her at bay, but who knows? Someday she could break free once once again. I'm sure there are plenty more extra cursed and haunted objects held at the Warren Occult Museum, but today we've only got time for 5.
And at number 5, the Satanic Idol. This lanky, horned, demonic-looking idol was discovered deep in the Connecticut woods. A lone deer hunter was out there with his bow when he came across it. Apparently, the hunter felt an immediate sense of dread and became frightened, and felt the strength leave his body. Freaked out, he made the decision to flee, walking away from it on a footpath. That's when he spotted a man dressed in all black with a white beard, who came seemingly out of nowhere, who was walking in step across from him, not looking at him at all. The hunter tried asking the mysterious man if he knew the way out of the woods, but the man didn't answer him, with words at least. Instead, he just used his finger to point towards the direction. Many people who have gone to the museum have reported feeling chills when they lay their eyes upon the Satanic Idol, but where exactly it came from originally, who knows?
Coming in number 4, we've got the toy monkey. What is it about old school toys that makes them so creepy? Like, at some point in history, every single toy maker decided it was time to stop making them look that way and move on to much cuter, cuddlier, cooler, and overall less frightening things. Maybe tastes changed, or folks just collectively woke up to the fact that they were letting their kids play with nightmare objects, but regardless of the reason, I'm glad we've left these designs in the past. Dredging up these figures makes for some good spooky times though, right? Take this toy monkey for example. Would you buy your kids something like this these days? I'd wager no, and for good reason. Not only is it unsettling to look at, plenty of similar monkeys have been featured in the spookiest of scenes across Hollywood, but there's a lot of dark energy imbued in this particular monkey. The one at the Warren's Museum is said to carry a terrible curse. Hell, it was even featured in Annabelle Comes Home. So what does a little monkey have to do to earn such a reputation? Well, this one seems to stalk people, torment them, and then kill them. Oh no. Imagine this thing suddenly appearing in your life one day, then as time went on it started popping up in places you know you didn't leave it. Little monkey cymbals might be heard crashing in the middle of the night, and disembodied shuffling can keep you from sleeping. All that's creepy, but it's still just a toy, right? Hold up. Did its eyes just glow? That is some monkey business I want no part of. But hey, at least this one in particular is locked away and not to be recirculated into the general population of antique monkey toys. Well, for now anyway.
And at number 3, the Conjuring Mirror. The Conjuring Mirror is an artifact that is used to perform conjuring rituals. Conjuration or evocation is the act of calling upon or summoning a spirit, a demon, a god, or some other sort of supernatural agent. The rituals and practices have roots that date back to the Romans, with conjuring being used as a threat during a siege, or as a way to divert the god's favor from the enemy and onto the Romans. Now these days, contemporary conjuring aligns more so with witchcraft or ceremonial magic by a variety of techniques. When the ritual is done properly and the spirits are summoned, the spirits are supposed to appear on the mirror's surface through a form of crystallomancy or crystal gazing. According to those at the museum, since there is no way to control whether the spirits that are summoned are going to be good spirits or evil spirits, communication through devices such as the mirror are considered incredibly dangerous. So if you go, maybe don't try it out. Just a thought. And at number 2, the Shadow Doll. The Shadow Doll is one creepy looking fella, and according to the Warrens, it's a vessel to inflict pain on unsuspecting victims. Draped in black with a pale face accented in blue, the Shadow Doll is apparently capable of appearing in your dreams and stopping one's heart. According to Ed Warren, who calls it the Doll of Shadows, it was made through black magic rituals, created for evil purposes, crafted out of human bones and animal parts, including nails, teeth, and crow's feathers. It works in a unique way too. Essentially, you take a photograph of the doll and send it to someone with a specific curse written on the back of that photo. Once the person that you've targeted looks at the photograph of the doll, the image of it can telepathically be projected to them in a dream state, allowing for it to visit them in a nightmare. Apparently, these images within people's dreams have been so powerful at times that they've stopped their hearts while they were sleeping. Now, destroying the doll is only said to have greater horrific consequences, since it will release the spirits that are trapped within it. So how did Ed and Lorraine get their hands on it? Well, a couple who had purchased it from an antique dealer brought it to them after experiencing the same horrible nightmare featuring the doll night and night again, and waking up with scratch marks all over their bodies. The following night after it first happened, claw marks started to appear on their bodies, which is when they called up the Warrens. According to the Warrens, in a press release, the doll's sole purpose is to wreak havoc upon innocent human beings. And finally, in at number 1, the Annabelle doll. The most famous piece of the Warrens' collection at their museum is without a doubt the Annabelle doll. It was locked up inside of a glass case with a sign in front of it that reads, "Warning, positively do not touch." While it may look like a regular old rag doll, the story behind it is by far more sinister. In 1970, a woman bought a Raggedy Ann-esque doll for her daughter at a thrift shop. Her daughter, Donna, who was in college at the time, liked it and brought it home to her apartment. But soon afterwards, her roommate Angie and her started to notice strange happenings, all of which revolved around the doll. The doll would move move by itself. It would appear in rooms other than the one that it was left in. Small pieces of paper with childish writing began to appear in the apartment that read things like "Help us" and "Help Lou," who was one of their male friends. And one day they found the doll standing up on its own. Freaked out, they contacted a medium, who told them that the doll was supposed to be possessed by a little girl who had died in their apartment building a long time ago, named Annabelle. The doll told the medium that she liked Donna and Angie, and wanted to stay with them, asking for their permission. The girl said yes, but by doing so, this allowed for more paranormal activity to occur, including a male friend being physically attacked by the doll one evening, leaving burn marks on his skin and causing him to bleed. That's when Ed and Lorraine were contacted, who discovered that rather than it being possessed by the spirit of a child, the doll was being manipulated by a demon who wanted to get closer to them, with the intention of possessing one of them. So they gave Annabelle to the Warrens, who now keep it in their museum.